Parliament has welcomed the Johannesburg High Court sentencing of former MP Vincent Smith to 7 years imprisonment on corruption charges linked to Bosasa. This comes after Smith pleaded guilty to charges including contravening the Prevention and Combating of Corruption Act and income tax. His conviction is seen as a stepping stone emanating from the recommendations of the Zondo Commission of Inquiry into state capture, chaired by Deputy Chief Justice Raymond Zondo. There are several other corruption cases currently enrolled in the courts involving approximately 200 accused from a total of 218 criminal investigations. Other matters awaiting trial include the Free State Asbestos Project, Transnet contracts, as well as SA Express. Let's discuss this now with NPA spokesperson Kaizer Kganyago. Dr. Kganyago, a very warm welcome to you this morning. Congratulations on the new post. I believe it's a little less than a week since you're sitting in that position. Perhaps maybe if you could just give us a status update with regards to the prosecutions related to the State Capture Commission recommendations, specifically those that are highlighting the significance of the 5 successful convictions by March of this year.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the well wishes. We as the NPA, we are in the process of putting a lot of these cases into the courts. And we want to make sure that all the matters that were put before us, emanating from the state capture era, are then dealt with the speed that it deserves. This one of Mr. Smith is one of those that we have started with, and we are moving swiftly to make sure that the message is sent very clearly that those that have done wrong are going to be followed up and made sure that they go through the courts and they are sentenced appropriately.
So Vincent Smith's 7-year sentence marks a very notable milestone. What message does this send about the NPA's commitment to fighting corruption at the highest levels?
It says a lot, because all it says is that he and his lawyers were clear that we have enough evidence as the NPA to take through this matter, and it was going to be very hard for them. That is why it was in their interest for them to come and do what they did with the plea and sentencing agreement that they entered into. Because if you look at the whole thing, people are only seeing the 7 years that is being put out there. But what basically happened in all the 4 charges that he had, he was sentenced basically to 12 years each, which basically gives about 48 years. But then they were then made to run concurrently, and then 5 years was reduced from the 12 years. Therefore, that's where we ultimately ended up with 7 years. Therefore, this sends a very clear message that we are really serious about these matters, and we will then get to the bottom of it. And the other thing that is not even being talked about is the fact that the asset forfeiture unit of the NPA is also following up on this matter, where they are they've freezed all the properties that belongs to Mr. Smith, with a view that they will then be regarded as proceeds of crime, and then be taken by the state and then sold, and the money be given to the Kara Fund.
Speaking of that asset forfeiture, I mean, about 11 billion rand has been recovered through settlements and forfeitures. How does asset recovery just complement criminal prosecutions, and what impact do you think this has on the fight against corruption?
It has a lot of impetus. It adds a lot of impetus to the prosecution side, because we do not want a situation where somebody benefits, goes to jail, and come back and continue with the benefit. Therefore, it is important that they go to jail, but also all the proceeds that they have gotten out of this criminal act are then taken back. This money is now put into the Kara Fund, and as you might have heard, even in the budget, then that money is then distributed back into the criminal justice system so that it can be used to hire more of prosecutors and so on, so that we are able to then do more with this money that is out of these criminal activities. And all of that money is gotten from the people who have done wrong by the asset forfeiture unit.
Despite this progress, a spokesperson, only a handful of convictions have been achieved in comparison to the number of those that have been implicated. What are the main challenges that the NPA is facing in securing convictions in these complex, corrupt cases?
Yeah, you will understand that the matters are before the courts, and there's many things that happen when the matters are before the courts, what the people sometimes call Stalingrad tactics, where people sometimes are not available, they do interlocutory applications, and the matters are dragged deliberately because the people have got the money and the resources to do that. But we are steadfast in the fact that we will then go through the process and make sure that it is done in a speedy way. That is why you have seen in the statement Advocate Andy be saying that in as much as the trial took longer than anticipated, finally the wheels of justice are moving, and we want to make sure that the message is clearly sent that all of these matters will be taken through the courts, and we hope that all of this will not be delayed by the tactics that happen in there, and then we will be able to do more in a very short space of time.
There are other cases, that would involve international corporates, and there'd be settlements with regards to those with major international firms such as ABB, McKinsey, as well as SAP, and some of those have paid reparations. How does the NPA coordinate with these international entities in these cases, and what message does it send with global corporations that are operating in South Africa?
Yeah, the first thing about that is when we deal with these matters, the prosecutors look at whatever they are bringing to them, and then when they are bringing all the information and they are pleading for reparations to be paid, the basic thing that is being looked at is that in the interest of justice? Because if it is in the interest of justice for that to happen, for the settlement to happen, or a plea or sentencing agreement to happen, that will be taken into consideration. But all of that is done within the laws of this country, and that is very important. But we are also sending a message not only to South Africans, but also to international firms to say, you cannot come into this country and go against the laws of this country. And if you do that, we will come after you. And if there is a need, we will then use the treaties that we have with your countries to follow you up in your country.
Lastly, spokesperson, are there any legislative or judicial reforms that the NPA advocates for in order to improve the efficacy of corruption prosecutions?
Yeah, at the moment, as you might know, that the NDPP is only a month in the job. Therefore, he is going to outline whatever he is going to be doing, and that he will be doing in this coming week, I think around about Thursday, where he will, for the first time, come out and indicate where his priorities are and how he's going to deal with them.
All right. Newly appointed NPA spokesperson, Kaizer Kganyago.